February 21st, 2025. Roughly $1.5 billion walks out of a cold wallet, a vault guarded by multiple keys, multiple signers, every approval given by the book. Nobody cracked the vault. Nobody stole the keys. The signers looked at their screens, saw a routine transfer, and signed. The screen was lying. That is the fear nobody selling you a wallet wants to say out loud. The weak point was never just the lock. It is the moment you approve something you cannot actually see. Tonight we fix that. 3 tiers of custody: the sidearm, the vault door, and the warlord tier, sized to what you are protecting, built from breach receipts, not brochures. By the end you will know exactly which tier you need and why. Education, never advice. The receipts are on screen. Let's open the files. Here is the trade nobody frames honestly. Money on an exchange feels safe the way a hotel room feels like home, comfortable, right up until the front desk changes your keycard. Accounts freeze. Platforms fail. Withdrawal buttons gray out on exactly the day you need them most. We read those files last briefing. Even the famous hardware names have leaked customer lists onto the open wasteland. So the question tonight is not which logo to trust. It is how far you want to walk down this road. From money you hold by permission to money you hold by possession. Every step down that road, someone else loses the power to freeze you and you pick up the weight they were carrying. That weight is real. Self-custody means no help desk, no password reset, no undo. This episode does not pretend otherwise. What it gives you is the honest map, 3 tiers, what each one stops, what each one costs, and the receipts behind every claim. You choose the tier. That is the whole point. It becomes your choice. Before any brand enters this room, the criteria: 5 tests, each one written by a real breach. Test 1: is the code open? If nobody outside the company can read the software guarding your savings, you are trusting a promise, not a system. Test 2: is it air-gapped? Every cable and every radio is a road in. The fewer roads, the fewer ambushes. Test 3: clear signing. Can you read on the device itself in plain words what you are about to approve? Hold that one. It is the whole Bybit story, and we will do the autopsy in a minute. Test 4: simulation. Does anything show you what a transaction will actually do before you commit? Because the most expensive click in crypto is an approval you did not understand. Test 5: is there a single point of failure? 1 seed, 1 device, 1 mistake. If 1 loss means total loss, that is not a vault, that is a dare. 5 tests. No logos yet. Notice what happened. You can now judge any wallet on the market yourself, including the ones we are about to name. Tier 1: the sidearm. This is the wallet in the fight with you. Browser, daily driver, active Defi. The one the forge runs is called Rabbi, and before you ask, nobody is paying us to say that. Verify, don't copy. Here is why it passes the tests that matter at this tier. It is open source and independently audited. Test 1 pass. And its headline weapon is Test 4. Before you sign anything, it simulates the transaction and shows you in plain words what leaves your wallet and what comes back, plus a risk flag when an approval smells wrong, plus a one-screen tool to revoke old approvals you forgot you ever gave. That is a second pair of eyes on every click. Now the honest column, because every tool gets one. It speaks one language family, Ethereum and its ecosystem, not Bitcoin, not everything. Its swap feature had a contract exploit back in 2022, disclosed, scoped, patched, but on the record. And the real-world threat is fake download pages. If you ever install it, you type the address yourself, character by character. A sidearm is for the fight, not the treasury, which brings us to the door. Tier 2: the vault door. When the number in the wallet starts to matter, the keys leave the computer. The hardware the forge runs is Keystone, again, not sponsored. Verify everything. Why it holds the door. It is air-gapped in the strict sense: no data cable, no Bluetooth, nothing but QR codes pass between screens, so your keys never touch a networked machine. 3 hardened chips guard the seed. And the reason it earns the clear signing test: the screen is big enough to actually read the transaction on the device. Not a hash, not a shrug, the real thing. Honest column. QR signing is slower, the maker's supply chain runs through jurisdictions some of you will weigh, and part of its deepest firmware is not published. No perfect tools in the wasteland, only known trade-offs. Now pair the tiers and see the doctrine. The sidearm simulates the transaction. The vault door makes you read it, 2 independent witnesses to every signature. And the third witness is knowing what you are touching before it ever reaches the wallet. That is forge work. Paste any contract into Steel Check at the Forge free link below, and it runs 6 safety reads and hands you 1 plain verdict. We provide the intel. You fight the war. Now the autopsy, because this one breach teaches more than every brochure ever printed. That cold wallet was a multisig multiple signers, a threshold of approvals, the strongest lock on the menu. The attackers never touched the lock. They compromised the machinery that displayed the transaction, the web interface the signers trusted, so every signer saw a clean, routine transfer while the real payload quietly handed control of the vault to the enemy. Every signature was given honestly. Every signer was deceived identically. Roughly $1.5 billion, gone in minutes. Investigators pinned it on a state-backed crew that had been running this exact play across the wasteland for years. Read the lesson carefully, because it is not multisig failed. The lock held. The eyes were blinded. The lesson is that any custody you cannot independently verify is custody you are taking on faith. That is why the tests stack. Simulation gives you 1 witness the attacker must also beat. A device screen you read yourself gives you a second, sitting outside the browser entirely. Air gap keeps the keys off the battlefield altogether. No single test would have been enough that day. The stack is the defense, which is exactly why the top tier exists. Tier 3, the Warlord tier. Multisig, a vault that refuses to open for 1 key alone. The common shape for 1 person is 2 of 3. 3 keys exist, any 2 move funds. Run it with 2 hardware devices, ideally from different makers, and a third backup key sealed somewhere geographically separate. Now walk the failure map and watch the fears fall. Device stolen. 1 key moves nothing. House fire eats a seed. 2 others survive. 1 manufacturer ships a bad flaw. The other maker's device is your veto. The single point of failure, the thing that makes self-custody feel like walking a rope, is gone. That is why this is the setup the Forge itself trusts for anything that matters. And now the cost column, stated as loudly. This tier demands discipline. Setup is genuinely harder. Every transaction needs 2 signatures, so friction is a feature and a tax. On Ethereum family chains, it runs through a smart contract, which is 1 more component to verify. And as the autopsy just showed, the interface serving that contract must never be blindly trusted. You read every transaction on a device screen, every time, or you have rebuilt Bybit's mistake at home. Lose 2 of 3 keys and no power in the wasteland brings the funds back. The Warlord tier protects you from everyone, including, if you are careless, from yourself. Step back and see the whole doctrine on 1 screen. Your wallet, whatever tier, guards the keys. But every loss we filed tonight started before the keys. A poison interface, a malicious contract, an approval that read as routine. The wallet is the last line, not the first. The first line is knowing what you are touching. That is the ground the Forge holds. Before a contract ever reaches your sidearm, run it through Steel Check, 6 safety reads, 1 plain verdict, free link below. The reads are yours either way. The Forge just runs them at machine speed. Sidearm simulates. Vault door makes you read. Warlord tier splits the keys. And the Forge checks the ground before you step on it. 4 layers. Anyone can fail. That is precisely why you run them together, no single point of failure, including in your habits. So the verdict is a mirror, not an order. Fighting daily with small stakes, the sidearm, used with open eyes. Holding something that would genuinely hurt to lose, the keys come off the computer, behind a screen you read yourself. Guarding what you cannot afford to lose at all, 2 devices, 3 keys, no single point of failure, and the discipline the tier demands. Size to your war, chosen by you, because that is what possession means. Next briefing, we make it real. You set up your first wallet, first person, every screen, every scary moment, the 10 minutes that turn all of this from theory into keys in your hand. If tonight's files kept one vault sealed, pay it forward. Subscribe, hit like so the algorithm arms the next survivor, and fall in at the Defi Warlords Telegram, home-based chat and announcements channel both below. Hold your keys. Move out.